folks, I hope it's a lovely day wherever you are. Today we will be taking a look at the details of your role as an RA. Though sometimes this might be an intimidating role, it's truly tremendous for your personal and professional growth. By the end of this presentation, you should have a sense of what your role entails and any expectations and responsibilities that come with the role, so you can be best prepared for when the time comes for dealing with situations as well as dealing with any inquiries that students might have for you. Don't worry, we will have a more in-depth training session in August, obviously, but this is just to get you thinking about it all. So before we begin, we have some deadline reminders. Both the criminal record check and first aid certificates are due by August 13th. You must submit the original hard copy for your criminal record check obtained from the local police or RCMP. For right now, a scanned copy will suffice, but for training, please bring the original hard copy. You can send it to us by mail earlier than that, but if you aren't able to do so, make sure you are sending us a scanned copy for right now and bring the original for training. Also, for your first aid certificate, you can just submit the scanned copy and that should be fine. So your date of arrival and departure are as follows. You will return for training in late August. More details about where you need to pick up your keys will be sent out in the beginning of August, so not to worry. In winter, you will return to residence a day before all residents are expected to return. This is to help you get things ready for any new arrivals in your residence. In both cases, you're expected to stay until after the final exams and at the end of your semester. Please know that when you are in residence before orientation and you see someone there earlier than orientation, they may feel uncomfortable acknowledging that they're there with a particular group or they've been cut from a sports team. So make sure you're not asking them why they're there. Just ask them, where they're coming from and just get to know them a bit more. Now let's dive right into your role. As part of your residence leader role, there are some expectations to keep in mind. These expectations relate to behavior, socializing, social media, and your personal life. Simply put, as an RA, you need to keep things confidential that you see while on duty or when a resident discloses it to you. You should only be debriefing this information with your Don, counselor, or student life. When sharing with the rest of your team, you should only share information that will help them with their roles. So for example, if you have warned your resident, Nemo, about noise after quiet hours in the hallway repeatedly, so you would inform the team of this so that the next time RAs see Nemo break this rule, they would know to write an incident report instead of just giving Nemo a warning. In another scenario, if Nemo approaches you about questioning their gender identity, but asks you not to tell that to anyone else, you would not report this to your team because this knowledge would not aid them in their role whatsoever. So if a student has asked you to keep something private, you can still debrief about the situation and how it made you feel without giving the student's identity. We recommend scheduling a time with your Don for this purpose. There's no need to hold everything in, but it's just important that you are not disclosing this to people who don't need to know this information. Also, as a resident leader, you should know and follow all the university policies. So this means the student code of conduct, the residence life code of conduct, and there are some other policies that we will discuss in August. If you choose to consume alcohol or cannabis, please keep in mind that you are a role model and a leader in residence. Mount Allison is a small community and living in residence is like living in a fishbowl because it allows people to see you all times. So people are quick to judge and those opinions can be hard to change, so remain mindful of how others might perceive your actions. When it comes to socializing, non-duty times must be acknowledged as well. It's a good idea to spend time with your residents during off-duty times as it will allow you to build a good rapport with them, which will make for a happy community and help you when you're dealing with incidences in residence with them later in the semester. You can also take this chance to be available for emergencies and define what it might look like. So for example, if someone is locked out of their room, it is not an emergency, they can talk to the RA on call. But if someone is concerned that their friend is passed out, drunk in a locked room, that would be an emergency. Also, many of our residents are second-year students, so meaning you were probably living with them last year. This means you will have to RA your friends from time to time. So it is important that you treat them like any other resident when on duty or documenting. If they come to you directly asking for help, like about a relationship issue, you can clarify and ask if they are coming to you as a friend or RA. If they give you the classic both, I guess, you can judge whether you need to record any of this in the logbook or report it at your next DONS meeting. Just ask yourself, will this information benefit other RAs to know? Be mindful about what you post online as well. Your residents may see your posts and it can negatively impact their opinion of you, depending on what you end up posting. So it's a safe route when posting an article online to state that it's something that you're interested in, instead of saying that this is your point of view. This way, if someone wishes, you can say that they can come and personally discuss it with you instead of having this online public back and forth. We also know it's challenging, and you may be this role may be challenging, and you may be unhappy about some aspects of it. But it is best not to vent these frustrations online or in person to residents who you're serving. Bad-mouthing your job or employers isn't celebrated by your current or any future employers. You are also a human being first and foremost. So meaning your family and your own mental health should be balanced with your studies, RA role, and extracurricular activities. So you came here to study, make sure you are making time for those academic needs. But also you've chosen to be in this role and help residents, so it would be unfair to your team if you do not put the effort into this role. That means the next thing on the scale, meaning second jobs, extracurricular activities, or just simply hanging out with friends, should not interfere with your RA responsibilities. And if you are having trouble managing it all, talk to your AD or DON and mention that you are having a tough time, because we want to make sure you are staying healthy. Now comes the fun part. A major part of your role consists of being on call and understanding the ins and outs of that. Your duty shifts take place on Friday and Saturday and is scheduled by your AD. Occasionally, there will be a duty schedule outside of these times due to campus events like homecoming or, particularly busy ones like St. Patrick's, things like that. You can ask for certain days off, such as Thanksgiving, but make sure to discuss this with the AD in the beginning of the semester. This is when they're creating the schedule, so they can do their best to accommodate you. Keep in mind that your AD will do their best to accommodate you, but not everyone can get what they want. So for example, if everyone is asking for St. Patrick's Day off, there are going to be some people who are unfortunately going to have to work it. Also, if you're unable to attend a shift suddenly for legitimate reasons like an illness, family emergency, you should approach your AD or DON and they can try to help you find someone that will cover your shift. Remember, someone can't just take your shift, it has to be switched. So if you need to switch shifts with someone, let your AD know in advance, but please don't make a habit of this, all right? And while you're on call, you will also complete rounds where you have to check all the main areas of concerns like bathrooms, lounges, stairwells, kitchens, things like that. It's also a good time to chat with residents to get to know them better and see their plans for the night, so you can prepare yourself for the aftermath of their night out. If they're telling you that they're going to be coming out late from Duckies, you know what to expect, right? Your rounds should continue every 1 hour after the end of your last rounds. So for example, if you ended rounds at 10 o'clock, then you start the next set of rounds at 11 o'clock. The amount of time a round takes depends on the size of your residence and the given night. If it's a busy night, it might just take you longer. And after each round, you need to record what you have observed and or dealt with in the logbook. I will be speaking with you about the logbook in a couple of slides. And your jurisdictions as an RA is limited within the walls of the residence building, and it may extend outside the front door. So if someone is smoking too close to the building, you can tell them that they can't be. If anything is happening in the parking lot or in the quad, the pond, call 911, or you can let MTA security know, because that is the appropriate resource for that. And you do not have the ability to ban anyone from residence or put someone on alcohol probation or things like that. But you can recommend these solutions to the DON. So make sure you're not going out and claiming that you can take these actions yourself. You will also have several hours a week when you are on call in residence. So you simply have to be available in residence to help students with simple inquiries, opening storage, and unlocking bedrooms. These hours are identified by you, so you will choose what hours you want to have for these, and these will be then approved by the DON. And this system is so that, off-duty RAs aren't constantly having to help residents and have it interfere in their personal lives. We want you to have a healthy balance. This is a happy medium where you also get to choose the hours. So now you will have noticed that there is a lot to keep track of in this role. For this purpose, we have two types of documentation to keep track of things: logbooks and incident reports. Your logbook is an electronic form to document things that you see or witness while you're on rounds as an RA. So in your logbook, you would report when an incident happens or it is brought to your attention. So you should write down immediately and don't assume that you're going to remember it later. It's really easy to forget these details when you're on rounds and you get busy with other things. So if you don't have access to a logbook, write it on paper and later you can transfer it online. And you aren't required to give out warnings to residents either, since students are supposed to read the Residence Life Code of Conduct. They know exactly what they signed up for. So if they break a rule, you don't necessarily have to give a warning. If you do give a warning though, give every resident the same warning and document it in the logbook so other RAs know that the resident has been warned and for which issue or infraction. So after the first warning has been given, if that happens again, an incidents report should be written. Residents should not receive more than one warning for the same issue. Otherwise, people will just see that you are very lax on these rules and they might just continuously repeat the same offense. And you have to remain unbiased and factual in this report of what happened in the situation. It's not a place for you to write your suspicions or what you think happened. This is all about including who, what, where, and when. You also record in it after speaking with the residents, when appropriate. So for example, Harry Potter informs you that Ron Weasley broke a window, but you didn't see Ron do it. In previous weeks, Ron has broken other things in the house and has been very unapologetic about it. So you decide to speak with Ron and he says he was just hanging out with friends in Windsor. In this case, you would write, Harry Potter claims he saw Ron Weasley break the window in the main lobby with a basketball on, say, Sunday, January 23rd at around 4 p.m. And I approached Ron at 7 p.m. today about the incident and he denied being there. He said he was in Windsor at the time. So even if you suspect that Ron is lying, keep the personal opinions out of the log. However, there will be times where the rest of your team doesn't need to know all these details. In such cases, you could just mention that there is a situation that you're dealing with or have already dealt with. So if someone tells you they're going through a pregnancy scare or questioning their sexuality, that's not information that they need to know. You should also be checking the logbook before entering a duty shift to keep up to date on the action going on in your residence. So if someone has received a warning, like I mentioned previously, like you would include any warnings as well. So if an RA has mentioned that someone has been warned about a certain infraction, then the next time that you see them, you know that it should be written as an incidents report. So when on duty, you should document how each round went, always noting the hour and what people in your residence are doing. If nothing seems to be happening, you could just write all is quiet and that should be sufficient. And in another case, like if you are doing a duty shift entry, like let's just take this scenario. During your rounds, you find a few people playing board games in the lounge. While approaching Nemo's room, you see there are more people and they've kind of spilled out into the hallway with liquor and alcohol in the hand. When you tell everyone with the open liquor to get in the room, Flo steps in and junkily tells you, your rules are stupid, before suddenly dropping her beer bottle, which shatters on the floor. You then explain to Flo that is exactly why glass is not allowed in common spaces and that she has to clean it up, which she does. And you also explain that she will be written up for the glass in the hallway. Next, you find Nemo and tell him that this seems to be getting a little out of hand and he needs to get it under control as soon as possible. So otherwise, you'll be forced to ask all of his guests to leave. He assures you that they're all leaving soon and you continue on your rounds. So if you're including this in the logbook, you would say at, say, 11 o'clock, Nemo and off-campus friends who were signed in were playing board games in the main lounge. Party in Nemo's room overflowed into the hallway. Warned Deb, Flo, Jacques, and Jill about open liquor. Flo dropped her bottle, cleaned it up, and I told her she will be written up for the glass in the hallway. Nemo assured me that they will be leaving for the Painted Pony soon. Rest of the house is relatively quiet. And then you would once you've done recording this logbook, you will then wait another hour and complete the next set of rounds. So each entry should include the following information. When completing the online logbook form, you will be prompted for when the date of submission is and when exactly this incident happened. You will also need to include your name as well as of those who were involved in the situation and where exactly that resident lives in terms of their room number. And then you would fill out the detailed report. So this is what the online interface of this form looks like when you are completing this sort of documentation. And as you can see, there are prompts and spaces to include the information mentioned from the previous slide. And then you would start this process by clicking Add Entry. So incident reports are used to document for student infractions. So student infractions like issues related to the resident's life code of conduct, use of emergency services. So if you've called an ambulance, for example, for the residents, that's when you would include that. Concerns about a student's mental health or overall well-being. And it should be completed as soon as possible after the incident report has been submitted with the facts only. So the IR is seen by the residents involved in the incident, the DON of the residents, and the residence life manager, or the RLM. IRs will not be seen by fellow RAs, but only the people who were involved, the DON and the RLM. And once again, as with the logbooks, please record any warning, and upon the second incident, you should be writing that IR. Remember, your role in this process of conduct is to just record the incidences and not assign points. Writing an incident report for an infraction or an incident does not immediately assign points or other sanctions to the residents, so don't make such claims to them. Points and other sanctions are determined by the residence life manager after they have reviewed the IR document. So now you've done your job of writing an accurate report of the issue, and say a sanction is given out. There are two types of sanctions that can be handed out. It could be a restorative sanction where you deal directly with the violated rule. So for example, if someone has made a large mess in a lounge, for example, the DON may decide along with the points assigned that the person needs to clean up that mess. If it's an educational sanction, on the other hand, it is designed to help the resident understand why that rule is in place and maybe even have them educate their peers with this new knowledge. So for example, if someone has constantly broken the quiet hour rule, the RLM or DON might ask them to have a meeting with the mental health educator about the importance of sleep, and then they will be asked to present this information at the next house meeting. So not only are they learning in the process, but they're also explaining this to the rest of the residents. Aside from documenting incidences in your role, you also have to attend the DON's meetings, handle the master key, communicate with the students and staff, as well as complete some miscellaneous tasks. You and your residence leader team will have a meeting with your DON on a weekly basis to discuss the past week's events and how residents in your house are doing. This allows for open communication with all the other residence leaders as well. So if there are any issues arising that you have noticed, they might have noticed, this is a good place to really exchange that information. And this open communication allows for the early alert system to occur. So this is where you as leaders will think before coming into the meeting about every person on your floor and report and discuss on any questionable changes in people's behavior, like someone is missing classes or their drinking habits. You may have all observed something about the same student, so this allows the DON to decide if something needs to be followed up with or someone just needs to be kept an eye on, things like that. So for example, you know Dory and Nemo broke up, and Nemo's friends tell you that he's been rather removed from his social group, and another RA notices that he hasn't been attending classes. Separately, these things may not be of great concern, but together, a pattern of poor coping mechanism starts to emerge. So your DON may ask in that case if you are comfortable checking in on Nebo. It is important to keep your teammates filled in on what you've witnessed or heard your residents are going through, but this session is by no means a gossip session about who is dating who or who's hooking up with who, unless you feel that there is a reason of concern. So, for example, consider the previous scenario. Instead of Nemo having a hard time, he's actually doing perfectly fine, and one day he brings a girl home. Unless you've spoken to Nemo and see a reason of concern in the situation, you do not bring this up in the meeting. Now comes the part of another big responsibility. Each RA is assigned one sub-master key, meaning master key or key fob for certain rooms of the building. So the key is your responsibility. Make sure it's safe, because you don't want to have to pay to replace the key and the locks for all the doors that key opens in the residence. That is a lot of money. And you will not get your sub-master key unless you have submitted your original criminal record check to Student Life either. So if that is lost, it is your responsibility. So make sure to keep it in a safe place. So you would use this key in case of emergency. So like example, like a student is in danger, they're locked out, or facilities management might ask for something. So if the reason is not outlined above, you will need the room owner's permission to enter the room. So for example, if two people are sharing a textbook and one goes home for the weekend, but leaves the book in his room, their partner cannot request you to open the door without the room owner's permission. So when you do plan to enter the room, you have to consider some things. You would firstly ask permission and have to receive a verbal confirmation in person from the room owner or through the Mount Allison email. So other forms of communication can easily be faked, and so it's not exactly safe or reliable to use. If someone else is trying to get into the room, make sure to accompany them. Also, you too must have to be accompanied by another RA or a resident you trust to accompany you while opening the room. This second person is there to verify that you haven't gone into the room for any invalid reason, like if you are planning to see something and invade personal privacy. It's not for any of those reasons. And make sure to lock the door when you are finished. When you are actually at the door, you will knock 3 times in a row, and between each knock you would say, "RA coming in," like you have to announce that you are coming into the room to allow the other person to get ready. So like if they aren't exactly dressed, that gives them enough time to put their clothes on. So that was if it was opening a residence room. If you were opening the storage room, you will have to accompany the residents when opening it, and never leave the storage door unlocked. It should lock automatically, and you should not prop it open either. People choose to leave their items in storage because it is locked and considered safe, so make sure you're keeping it that way. And just so you know, if you do misuse the master key, there will be disciplinary action, including the possibility of termination. So email is the official method of communication of Mount Allison, so you should be checking your Mount Allison email at least twice a weekday, morning and late afternoon. And if you need any help from Student Life, you can email us or call us in the Student Life office, or you can call the residence manager or the residence life coordinator, or you can email them as well. So for immediate assistance, you would call your DON or the appropriate MTA services, 911, or the residence life manager. And it is also strongly recommended that you do not post your cell phone numbers for your residents. It may be coming from a good place and you may be tempted to share it initially, but you may find it difficult to be constantly available to your students. So if there is a medical or a threatening emergency, you should make it clear to them that they need to call 911. In addition to these responsibilities, we may ask you from time to time to perform some other simple tasks, such as hanging posters in residence. If you feel uncomfortable with any of these miscellaneous tasks that we've asked you to do, you can always talk to the RLM, meaning the Res Life Manager, or the DON. Also, while you are the first responder to many of these students, you are by no means their long-term support worker. The reason for paid professional staff on campus is so that they can support their students. So direct students to these resources as much as you can. If someone still constantly comes to you for help despite you providing these resources, please inform your DON. It is important that you take time for yourself. And never do anything that would put you in harm's way. So call 911 and then MTA security if you feel if there's like a threatening situation or of something of possible harm. That means don't try to break up a fight, okay? Any kind of physical altercation, you let it be and you call 911 and MTA security if they don't stop. Also, during times of residence parties, many houses will need RAs for their buildings. This is an optional shift, but the more parties you volunteer for, the more RAs from other houses will be willing to help you at your house party. So the more RAs present means a smoother ride, so try to volunteer if you can. Lastly, as the saying goes, doctors are their own worst patients. The same is true for RAs. While you may want to help everyone, you should not exhaust yourself. If it is a non-emergency situation, ask them to come to you for help during office hours. And while we've already said this, extracurricular activities should come after your RA duties. It's all about balance. So get involved with something outside of residence. Leave your house for once in a while to study. If you feel overworked or stressed, talk to your Don. Oftentimes, it's someone on the outside that can give you the perspective that you need. And lastly, if you have any issue with your AD for help, you can go down this list. So if you're trying to seek help in terms of a situation with the AD, you can talk to the Don. If it's something about your Don, you can talk to the Res Life manager or the coordinator. And if it's something about your Don and the Res Life coordinator, then you would speak with the Director of Student Life. So whether it's about a personal matter or disagreement, we're here for you, so let us know. And whatever concern you bring to us as Student Life, it will always be heard. So that is all for today. Make sure you are reading the supplementary document and answering the questions related to this module. If you have any other questions specifically, you can always email us at studentlife@mta.ca. I hope you have a great day.